Hi everyone, in this Java tutorial we're looking at what are variables. Variables are containers that store a particular piece of data in memory. Any data that we use in Java needs to be stored in one of these variables. We can think of variables as a box in which you can put things into. For example, we can allocate some space in memory for our box. This space we've reserved in memory is now our variable. Now we can put things into this box. For example, a camera. Now our box contains a camera somewhere in the random access memory in our computers. So how do we go about doing this? Well, we can achieve this in Java by declaring a variable and then assigning a value to it. Value being the camera in this case. Let's take a look at how this is done. First, we need to determine the type of data we're going to be storing in our variable. This means we need to control the type of information that will be allowed to be stored in the variable. For this example, we're going to be storing a number in the variable, and one of the data types available to store a number in Java is an int, which is short for integer. This int is a primitive data type and is one of the 8 basic types available in Java. They're actually used extensively throughout Java and in our tutorials. In the next tutorial, we're going to be looking at data types in more detail. Now we know the type of data we're going to be storing in our variable, we need to give the variable a name. For example, myInt. We need the variable name to be able to refer to the value that is stored in memory. It's very much similar to using x and y in maths to label a value. However, it does differ to maths because we can change the value that is stored, hence why it's called a variable. So far we've declared the data type and the variable name, and this is all we need to declare a variable because primitive types have a default value. And for this data type, int, the default value is 0. To be able to put some data into our variable, we need to assign a value using the assignment operator, which is the equal sign. Then we can give the variable a value, say 10, and finish off this statement with a semicolon. So this statement says we have declared a variable myInt of type int and assigned a value of 10 to it. Okay, let's take a look at how this looks in Eclipse. Okay, this code is similar to the last program that we used, only this time I've named this program first program. Okay, let's begin by typing int space myInt space assignment operator space 10, and then finishing off with a semicolon. We always finish our statements with a semicolon, so this line here is a statement. So if we remember from our previous tutorial how to display something on the screen is to type in sys o and then control space. Okay, so in between these parentheses type in the variable name myInt and then click run and save that, and there we go. In the console we see the value 10 output. So before we go any further, I wanted to discuss how we name variables in Java. So first of all, variable names can use any Unicode character. For example, we can type in my $12 underscore 1 followed by nm. So that's perfectly valid. Let's copy and paste here. So this will actually run perfectly fine. So there we go. Second, having said that, variable names cannot start with a number. So we can't have 8 myInt, which is unacceptable, and you can see the error here. syntax error. So no numbers are allowed. The only characters allowed at the beginning of a variable name is the dollar character and the underscore character. Both are valid. However, having said that, in Java it is best practice to use a letter. Okay, third, when you name your variables, use self-descriptive names. By that I mean give it a name that makes sense and clearly identifies what your variable is. Otherwise, when you start to program and use random illegible names that have no relation to what the variable is holding, it's going to cause you problems. So we really don't want to be seeing my HS something, some random thing. This makes no sense at all. So keep it self-descriptive. So my int obviously suggests that we're holding an integer. My age also suggests a number. So keep it simple, like number, my age, my house number. So okay. Fourth, when we declare a variable name, we cannot have spaces between words. So for example, we cannot have my house number. So it must all be one contiguous set of characters. So by that means no spaces, all side by side and together. So my house number. So just again, another error. Okay. So fifth, notice how I've used a lowercase at the beginning of our first word and then uppercase letters for each subsequent word in our variable name. Now this is actually a convention called camel case. It's highly recommended that you use this to name your variable names. And another thing, variable names need to be unique. You cannot have duplicates variable names. So for example, you can't use the same variable name twice. It will throw up an error. So it will say, as you can see, duplicate local variable name. So you can obviously change that, for example. And another thing, now that we do that, remember Java is case sensitive. By changing the letter N to a lowercase in my house number, we cannot have my house number written like this and written like this. These are two completely different variables. So for example, I'll show you here. So let's change this to a value to a 20 and let me output both these variables. Let's just copy and paste this to save time and change that, and let's run this. So as you can see, these are two completely different names, and so the output whatever is stored in there. Okay, so what I've shown you here is how to declare a variable and assign a value to it. So this is one method of actually doing this. There is a second method, which is to actually declare a type and variable name, and then on the following line is to type in the variable name again, house number, and then assigning a value to it. Now it is preferable to use this way to declare a variable and assigning a value, because it's quicker, and the second is less typing as well, so it's easier. So it's preferable to declare a variable and initialize it at the same time. Okay, now that I've shown you how to output this variable, there is one thing I wanted to mention. Let's just delete this one here and change it back to the proper camel case. We don't want that at the moment. Okay, let's just confirm that is all okay. It should display 20. So obviously this is a variable, so let's change the value in here, and that's a 10. Let's duplicate this, put our variable, so let's change the value to 30 and then output the value again, and we should see a new value on the second line. So as you can see, 10 and 30, just to make things a little bit more clear, I'll type in first and then again call this one second. Okay, all that's been done here is written a string followed by the concatenation operation. This is another operation in Java. I'm going to be covering this in later tutorial. You should probably notice a spelling mistake. There we go. First, and then run. There you go. First variable, second variable. Okay, so to quickly go over what we covered in this tutorial, we've learnt what is a variable and how we can declare a variable and assign a value to it. And we also looked at how to name variables in Java. I know this may seem somewhat boring at the moment, but it is important to learn these fundamentals, and it will help you as you go along these tutorials. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this, please hit the like button and hit subscribe. And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.